Welcome to a review of Mindshadow, an adventure game for many different computers. Back in the day, 1984 I believe this first came out, 85 for some systems, 86 for other systems. Now, Mindshadow was a fairly simple adventure. There are different formats I could show you. Normally I would show the Commodore 64 one, which is great. That's the version I played. It's a version that taught me how to type at a decent speed. But I'm going to show the Amiga version because the Amiga one's got a nice interface with some clicky stuff up here where we can actually run a lot of the commands just with the mouse as opposed to having to type them in. So yeah, it's a nice version. The graphics are also much faster to load in the Amiga version, so that's the reason why I'm demoing it. Otherwise, I'll go to 3 locations in 20 minutes and we'll be done, and that's all you will have seen because that takes so long to draw. It's not that bad. Mindshadow is a game that was programmed back in the day. Commodore 64 version was out there, along with Apple, Spectrum, Amstrad, Atari ST, and Commodore Amiga, and probably other computers and formats as well. So it really got around. Now, back in the day, Interplay coded this. They entered into a contract with Activision worth $100,000 to put some text adventures together, and this was one of those adventure games. Now, the thing I really liked about Mindshadow back in the day was the fact that you're stranded on a desert island and you don't know who you are. I mean, you're starting the game with amnesia. So talk about problems. And part of the adventure is not just solving the puzzles, getting through the locations. Part of the problem is getting your memory back. Who are you? What are you doing on this desert island? And you're going to have to not only solve the mystery and solve the adventure by getting from A to Z, but you're also going to have to get your memory back. Now, you do that by doing this. You remember things, or think is interchangeable if you want to type that. So I can say remember something that isn't going to help me, Jones. You don't remember anything important, but you will. You are going to get clues as you go throughout the game that help you piece together who you are. And by remembering all those clues in the right sequence, at the end of the game you can solve it. Now, if you've missed a clue, you're stuck. You're never going to be able to solve this game. You might get to the end of the game, but if you didn't get all the clues to help you remember who you are, then it's all for nothing. Mindshadow wins. It gets a point, you get nothing. So that's how it goes. Now, just bear in mind, this review is going to contain some spoilers for you. So I know that's a bit unfortunate, but just be warned. I'm not going to sort of show all of the spoilers, but I am going to show some of the spoilers. Anyway, as I just wander around here, quicksand ahead, we better be really careful there. Let's just go back because I don't want to get into any strife. Can we go east here? We sure can. Another thing I liked about the Amiga version over the C64 one was you can see stuff in my inventory that I've already picked up. So I'm not going to tell you how I got it. You're going to have to figure that out. But this game does not have many locations. I recently talked about Robots of Dawn. This has got even less stuff, less locations in it. But it's still a great game because you've got that, well, who am I? Why am I here? Who's done what to me? I need to get my memory back to find out. I've got an enemy apparently that's left me stranded on this island, and how do I get back to civilization and piece my life back together, and more importantly, my memory back together as to who I am. So very, very cool, very Bourne Identity, and did get some comparisons to that back in the day. Just as you're enjoying those fantastic graphics with the boat there, a little bit more background on the game. So this was designed, programmed by 2 people who did a really good job on it. We've got Alan Adham. So Alan would later go on to do a heap of stuff in founding Blizzard. They did a few small games you may have heard of, like Warcraft, Starcraft, etc. But more importantly, on the SNES, Lost Vikings and Rock and Roll Racing. Two of the best SNES games ever. They put those together. Oh, he was a producer of those with Blizzard, so very, very cool. And Rebecca Heinemann is the other programmer here. So she did a number of other games like Tracer Sanction was another one, and would later go on to do Borrowed Time as well. Alan Adham would also, I believe, work with Rebecca Heinemann on Borrowed Time too. So I haven't completed Borrowed Time. I tried it and got stuck. I must revisit it. And I've never played Tracer Sanction, which also came out in '84. I must do that. So yeah, that's a little bit of backstory on this game by Activision as we look at the stuff. Okay, so we've come into the game on the desert island pretty well at the end of it. So I've already done a heap of stuff in here. I'm not going to give away how I got to it. But when we go back to the first location that you start on, which is a beach, a deserted beach, I mean, do you want to leave? Look at that. Yep, so yeah, this is where you start the game. You see a view of Hut to the north. Now, if you go look ocean, could it be? Yes, a ship sailing along the horizon. So you learn very early on in Mindshadow, you got to get the attention of that ship. That's your only way off this island. So that's not a spoiler. You figure that one out pretty easily. So yeah, very, very handy to know that. So you can get around here, steep cliff. I'm not going to give away what happens there. Yeah, so you've got to get off the island. That is your first part of the puzzle. Now, I've already sort of set it up so I know what to do here. Look at my little inventory here. It's pretty cool. Drop shell. I found a bottle of rum, piece of steel, and a rock. So look at that. So I might just pick all those things up again. I love how you can just do that on the screen too. I think that's pretty good, hey? It's a really nice touch in Mindshadow. And you didn't have this on the C64 version, you just had to type everything in. Zap 64 liked this game. They get pretty kind to it. On original disc-only release, it got 60%, I think, and then up to 75% on the tape version that came out after. Tape version is a bit of a pain. It's a multi-load, only because of the quick draw graphics. And I found it quite painful. So I'm not going to do a comparison to the C64 version. Go have a look at it if you like. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I loved it, but much rather play it without the multi-load and the faster graphics these days. Hence why we're looking at it on the Amiga. Okay, so I think from here to get off the island, we have to close your eyes, shut down this video if you don't want to learn how we get off the island, because I'm going to do that now so we can get to the next stage. Now, I'm pretty sure it was hit rock with steel. Sparks fly. Ah, of course, I'm missing an element that I need. Indeed I am. So I'm not going to give it away, but you need something else to get to the next stage. Now, just like magic, I'm at the next stage. I'm not going to tell you how I got there, but I've given you a pretty good hint in the previous section. So now we're on ship. So we did get the attention of that ship, and we're able to have a look around. We're able to wander through the ship. There's not many locations here. The island is quite punishing in that it's going to make you a bit Colossal Cave-like with getting lost. There's a kind of maze where you can drown in quicksand quite easily. So beware of that. I encourage you to sort of map that section out so you don't get stuck and too frustrated. But it's certainly doable, and I believe in you. You can get there. You can get off the island in Mindshadow. Now, we're just wandering around the boat at the moment, having a look-see. What else is here? I'm being followed by a Mindshadow. Mindshadow, Mindshadow. Apologies for that. It wasn't good, and you probably didn't need to hear it. Now, we're still on the ship. There's a lifeboat there. So how do you get that lifeboat? Or is this indeed just a red herring? These are the puzzles. So some good puzzles in Mindshadow. It doesn't take you too long, though, to figure out how to get off the ship and into the next scene. Now, you haven't really got any of your memory back at this point. I picked up this cleaver. that's going to be handy for getting off here. I mentioned here too that you got all this stuff. It's pretty handy, so I could try to climb something, climb the boat maybe. You can't go there. Perhaps if you tried a direction. What else? Maybe I'll strike the boat. You can't strike the boat. So I could try and talk to the boat, and that's probably not going to do me a lot of good either. You'll hardly get a response from the boat. I feel chastised by Mindshadow now. You're on the port stern. So look, typical adventure game. The graphics back in the day were quite good. Did it have exits? No, it didn't. Okay. It would let you get all and do things like that, but the vocabulary is not fancy, that's for sure. And your interaction with characters in this game is extremely limited. Now there is a handy help section, and Condor, the mysterious bird, that also featured in Tracer section, I believe, will come and help you if you type in help. Here we go. Condor says, think for yourself. Now it sounds like Condor is basically about as useful as a screen door on a submarine right now, saying think for yourself. But Condor is trying to give you a bit of a hand here, because think is part of the key to unlocking the game. Think about names that you're going to come across. So I don't have one right now, and you're not really going to find any in this section of Mindshadow. It's only later that you're going to find stuff that's really going to help you out when you either type think or remember such and such, and stuff's going to come back to you. Very, very cool. I mean, I don't remember playing anything else on the Commodore 64 that sort of not only gave you the obstacles to get through, but also you had to get your memory back as well. But just remember, when you're using the help command in Mindshadow, you can only use it 3 times. Then Condor, the mysterious bird, gives you the bird, and Condor's out of there. You're on your own. So just be very, very careful. Don't use up all your helps at once as you try and get off this ship that sort of rescued you, but now you're stuck and they don't really care whether you get off the ship or not. And just like that, we are now in London. So we got off the ship. And again, I'm not going to give too much away. I'm not going to give too much away to you, but you can see I've collected a few things, and it's pretty cool that I've got all these different items in my inventory that you can see over here. Now the docks are dark and dangerous, but there are ways out. Airport Way runs to the north, Baker Street to the east. So we're going to wander around London and do some stuff. Again, very disappointing there's not more locations in Mindshadow here, but I guess that makes you pay more attention to where you are, because you're going to need to do that. Now, I'm not going to tell you how I came across this item, but little spoiler coming up. So block your ears, blindfold yourself, and come back in about a minute, because I'm going to give away a hint now that is a bit of a spoiler. Maybe just fast forward a minute and I'll keep it brief. Now, one of the items you can see that I have gathered is in fact this. It's a newspaper. Now, I'm not going to tell you how I got it, but I can read that. So let's do that. Read newspaper. Financier Ackman donates new hospital wing from the London Tribune. Now, that in itself might not seem particularly meaningful, but as I talked about remembering or thinking about things that are going to help jog that memory, this is a clue. This is one of them. So now if I go, remember, Ackman, it's even in caps for me in the paper, a wealthy industrialist, ellipse. So nice. Just subtle. It's not given me much to work with there, but it is a piece of the puzzle. So fantastic. I do like how Mindshadow sort of built up that story, that narrative. And while the pass is limited and the locations are limited, etc., I really like the fact that the narrative in this is good, right? A text adventure is really all about the story and interactive fiction and pulling you in and making you feel giving you something compelling to try to solve a mystery. And I really think Mindshadow did that well. And I went from about 10 words a minute, I reckon, to 40 words a minute in playing this game. Just taught me how to type really, really quickly. So I guess I'm grateful to Mindshadow and to my mum for buying me a Commodore 64 back in the day. I kept nagging her And I started with a Commodore 16, which was tops. Had Jack Attack on that. Jack Attack is the best, by the way. Gold medal. Have to review that someday. Zap, what were you thinking of? Hang your heads in shame, lads. But anyway, back to Mindshadow. And Commodore 64, got that later, and this was one of the text adventures I got. And I was hooked. And I'm going to say that I know point and click adventures took off, but this has survived. This still has a good narrative, and it's a story worth playing. I really encourage you to check it out and see if you can solve it. Challenge yourself. See if you can get through it and make friends with the parser and figure out the puzzles. Yeah, a couple of them are pretty obtuse, but by and large, it's not too bad. You can die in this game, though. Just be warned. Dark Alley extends to the east. Well, that's tempting. Let's go. Let's go and have a look at the Dark Alley as we wander around London. I like this. I like the eyes looking at you. Look at these eyes out there looking at you, giving you the evil eye. This is a sort of place where robbers hang out. So, yes, be afraid. Now, a fat man lies in the corner, fast asleep. Okay. Search, man. You find nothing. Okay, well, that's fair enough. What have I got in my inventory? I've already read the paper, so I'm going to give him the newspaper to read when he wakes up. So, and I'm also going to give him this fishing pole. I don't need it anymore. Not that I'm an advocate for fishing anyway. Let the fish swim free, I say. But he can have that as well. I don't really need it. What else? Oh, no, I better keep the hat. I think the hat's important. I don't think I need the cleaver again now, so he can have that as well. Give him a few things here. Don't think I need that. Drop the steel, and actually I might need the shell. I can't remember what you do with the shell. Can we listen to the shell? You hear Lorne Green narrating an Ocean series. Very, very funny. Not. Okay, the jokes haven't aged well. That's true. It runs south and west. So let's go back to the west. Let's go north. As I said, not many locations, but I do appreciate the graphics loading very quickly. Rick's Cafe lies to the east. All right, Mindshadow. Hat check. So I guess we give her the hat, right? Don't forget to pick it up on your way out. Waitress arrives, deposits a drink on the table. Now, things get pretty nasty here at this part of the adventure game, but I'm going to stop there. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give away what's about to happen. You go and get your mitts on Mindshadow, see if you can get to this location and figure it out for yourself and have fun doing it, because it's a great little game. I'm lucky enough to have the original of this and Robots of Dawn as well. I did sell them in my youth because I needed the money for stuff. Probably to buy a bigger computer, most likely. But I've been able to rebuy them before prices got silly, so I didn't have to pay too much for them. As you know, now people want ridiculous amounts of money for Commodore 64 stuff, but good luck to them. Hey, it's a supply and demand, right? If you're able to get some good dosh for your old games, I tip my hat to you. The very same hat that I left with the hat check girl just back at that previous location, in fact. All right, now next, there's one more area you've got to get to in Mindshadow, and that is Luxembourg. And now, mysteriously, we are in Luxembourg. And that's the last series of locations in the game of Mindshadow. So it's very, very limited for locations, but still a great little mystery. And I like the fact that you could knock this over probably in one really long gaming session. If you wanted to spend 8 hours playing Mindshadow, I reckon you could knock it off. So that's so much better than having to spend weeks or months on an adventure game. Who has that kind of time anyway? You know, back in your youth, when you had your Commodore 64, you had all the time in the world. Now, though, you've got all of the games in the world, but none of the time. How the worm has turned. Talk to the policeman. I don't want any trouble on my beat. So we're in Luxembourg, final stage of Mindshadow. We've now built up some of our memories are back, and we're getting closer to finding out what's happening. I mentioned previously the game gets nasty here, and it does. Kind of wants to kill you. So Yeah, I figure that's a bit harsh, but nonetheless, it's a mystery for you to solve. Why do these people want to kill you? Why did they leave you stuck on that island, that deserted desert island? You were never supposed to get back to Luxembourg. Who are these people? And that's part of the mystery for you to unravel as you deal with all of these characters. I haven't really shown you much on here, have I, with the point and click stuff? I've really talked it up like it's amazing, and then I've shown you nothing with it. I wonder if I can strike the policeman. Strike, and then click on him. No. I'll type it in. This might end the game, by the way. There are easier ways of ending this game, so it gives you a warning. I like it. I like it. Yeah, so Luxembourg, we're a little bit closer now, and as we wander around the locations, typical west, north, south, east, blah, blah, blah. We're inside an inn, and there's a booth, so you can go to different booths by typing a number. Now, if you got the clue, you know which booth to go to. If you don't, you're going to have to type booth 1 through to 99 and eventually hope that you get the right one. I don't even know if it will let you do that if you didn't get the clue. So I'm not going to tell you which one it is. That is your Mindshadow experience that is waiting for you. Now, let's head. Actually, I could go to the booth because I know what number it is, but let's not do that. I don't want to give it away. I want you to have your own fun with Mindshadow. So let's go north. What's up ahead? Here we go. Street to the west that would deposit you at the bank. I see. Well, let's go to the bank. Get all that money that might be mine. Bank is staid, professional, very old Europe. Yeah, the characters are pretty good here, you know, but we're very limited, right? We're not Robots of Dawn. You're not going to be asking who had the opportunity to leave you on the desert island here, but you can ask them stuff. So we can talk to the clerk. For example, your account number, please. So again, have you got stuff that you need? I should have mentioned this little compass over here too, because this does let you obviously click around and go down, go north, different locations, etc. I like it. So you can go up and down, or you can go west and east. Obviously, it helps if that location is available to you in the game, such as going east, which it is. So again, just saves those fingers having to type everything. The fact you've got these nice point and click interface. I like that they did this for Mindshadow. I believe they went back and did it for Borrowed Time on the Amiga as well. And if I can ever make any progress in that game, then maybe that is one that I will share my experiences with as well. I've taken you on quite a tour of Mindshadow, just recapping. We have visited the deserted island where we start the game, then the pirate ship, the next stage. Then after that, we went to London, and now we're in the final stage of the game, Luxembourg. I guess I'm deliberately not trying to give too much away, because you're going to want to have your own experiences with this game if you ever decide to go back and play it. And I don't know about you, but I don't like the new games that much. Yeah, sure, GTA 5 is neat. It's really, really cool. The things you'd never do in real life that you can go and do in this virtual 3D world. I like it, sure. But I don't have the time to really invest in it. I really want compact games. Not going to take too much of my time, because I don't have that much time to give. So I want to use my mind to have to figure out puzzles. So I love revisiting some of these old games. So I've shown you some that I just play in my youth, but I really think that the compactness of these games, combined with the tricky little puzzles, the interactive sort of fiction element to them, I just think it really makes them an excellent experience that you can enjoy in a day or half a day even, and potentially solve it or get halfway through it, as opposed to taking many months of time you probably don't have to get through a game, because there's stuff that's got to be done, right? So that's how it is. You've got better things to do than just play games all of the time, especially as you get older. That's just the balance of life. A great little game, Mindshadow. It was received pretty well. I mean, it sort of got that average to good marks. No one said it was brilliant. I'm not saying it's brilliant. I think sort of 75% that Zap gave the tape release of this back in 1986 was about right. it was about right. I mean, back in the heyday, I was a little bit zealous about this game. I probably would have given it 85, maybe even pushed it up to a cheeky sizzler or something. But you know, it's just a good game, and it's got a gripping story, and it's worth having. Now, every now and again, I do mention my books in here, and just very quickly, I do give a hat tip to Mindshadow in my book, Back in Time for a Donut, which is it's a time travel story set in Brisbane, where the protagonist Tara is trying to go back in time to fix the future because it's very bleak. Her sister is the Prime Minister, and there's a point where she's playing Mindshadow, and she actually gives away how you get off the desert island in there by saying what you do to get off there. And again, I like doing little hat tips in my books to all of the classic games like Mindshadow, and I did that in Back in Time for a Donut. So Tara's a bit of a gamer, as I am and have always been. Yeah, look, I mean, if you were to get buried in a big Mindshadow box, there'd be worse ways to go, I think. Well, yeah, it's a classic little game, and highly recommended to you. I think that just about covers it. There's probably not a great deal more to say about it. Yeah, I just encourage you to give it a go. I mean, the Amiga version is probably the way to go just because it's so much faster, and I like the things in it to save you a bit of time and to give you a visual reference of the stuff that you've got as well, because it's all there either on the screen or sitting in your inventory. Leave some comments. Tell me if you played this game on any format back in your youth. If you played it on the Apple, I apologise for my very harsh Apple comments that I made previously, although it was still rubbish. And having said that, Karateka was a great game on the Apple, though. I will give you that. One of my best mates, Steve, got absolutely hooked on Karateka on the Apple IIe in the school library, and we were all supposed to be doing work on it, but of course no one did any work on it. It was all about getting your mitts on Karateka. I just never seemed to get there. So, but my mate Steve finished it, and maybe that's a game I should cover at some point, the good old Karateka. But back to Text Adventures. Mindshadow, Activision, fantastic game. Can you get your memory back and find out what happened to you, as well as solve the game? It's a great little title for you, and encourage you to go and enjoy the game, enjoy trying to get your memory back, and tell me how you went, either back in the day, or if you have a chop at it now, let me know how you went. Bye for now.